dog Edward. No, not that way. The other way. Keep going. Keep going.
Lift us up where we belong, where our free speech flies from the mountains high. Mugs lift us up where we belong, far from the prince below, banning our radio.
Louder with Crowder Studios, protected exclusively by Walther.
It's June, which marks Louder with Crowder's third annual Cultural Appropriation Month, where we take you across the globe learning and appreciating all the great cultures this planet has to offer. This week, allow us to transport you to the oft-persecuted but ass-kicking culture of Israel.
That's the penning lamb's blood at the top of the door because they do that. So Israel! Thanks to Dolav Broughton, by the way, at Dolav Broughton for the idea of Israel Cultural Appropriation Month.
Brilliant.
This
Great
is the
idea.
third year in a row it caught on, and we're going to be looking at, I think, seeing the best live costume every week this month for the culture to see who wins a cultural appropriation costume contest.
You're looking
Brilliant.
I'm mighty dapper over there, my friend. You're looking
I
good.
feel like I look more like Mary Poppins had sex with Dustin Hoffman and Hook.
Yeah, you definitely look.
In case you were wondering, Hasidic was the goal. We have Governor Mike Huckabee on the show. He's going to be thrilled with the get-ups.
Nice.
Though not as angry as Sally Cohn last year with Sweden.
Ooh.
And then we have RazorFist
sore.
on the show. And we're going to be talking about Samantha Bee. We're going to be talking about the Forbes Top 100. Apparently no athletes there were women. But hey, but the thing behind Cultural Appropriation Month, for people who don't realize, is to appropriate is to appreciate one's culture.
That's true.
And so we always want to, Israel, a lot of people don't know. Here's some little facts from Israel. Our brilliant researcher, the Beast, Reg, as we call him. Israel is actually home to the city with the most chess grandmasters in the world.
Ooh.
I would have thought they'd be Asian. I have Israel to thank for, actually, it looks, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. I had no idea that actually
a little pissed off now about
came
that.
to us from Israel, but again, they put in nothing but Asians in those suits. I love how it's just like Jason, Billy, the black guy. And then once again, the suits, it's all just 14-year-old female Japanese gymnasts.
Yep.
And a little known fact also, Israel the only functioning democracy in the Middle East. So that's something else that's...
It's not.
Oh.
Allah Akbar.
Ooh. That's awkward.
We'd take care of it, but we know we'd be in the nightly news. So producing on the in-video studio, as always, is Jared, who is not gay. Follow him on Twitter at NotGayJared. Meet us, Crowder, with your comments, your thoughts, your photoshops. Again, your costumes and your suggestions.
Yes.
What would you like to see? And also, who would you like to see for long-form interviews, by the way? We have some coming up. We have some Change My Minds coming up next week, some hidden camera segments, a long-form with Dennis Prager, obviously Jordan Peterson. But who else? We're always looking for people you want to hear an interview with an hour for FF Family League Obligations. Draw your own conclusions. We good?
I apologize for Ready Player One.
Yeah.
I have to own
It wasn't
that
that bad. It was not that bad.
Also, Jurassic Park 2. I'm surprised you took that one on.
I know.
At G. Morgan Jr., IDF, Resident-in-Chief. Thank you.
Right. I feel so powerful in this.
Yeah, well.
From our Jewish
I'm glad
brother.
you feel that way.
Betts.
Betts.
Winery.
Is that a Jewish winery?
I think it's a Jewish name, right?
Okay.
So,
Thanks for doing your
I
research.
did, actually. I looked it up. The Jewish handbook said it's true.
Sven Computer is here. You ready to do research and overlays? You ready to get it right?
Yes, Philippe. Shalom alaikum. I'm ready over here. You can follow me on Twitter. Don't sweat it. You can follow me at Elon Muskenstein.
Okay.
Or alternatively,
Muskenstein.
on my backup account.
No.
Do you think he's wearing black because of the outfit, or is he?
This must be very difficult for you
be
as a
very
German.
It's a tough one for
to
the
be here.
German.
No, I don't think it's black. I don't think he's mourning what his people did. I think he's mourning this episode.
This
Yeah.
episode.
That has to be a part of it.
Drop my identity. I'm fine. I'm really clear with myself.
Yeah.
Right, good. Okay, so news of the day. Listen, President Donald Trump has now, this is trending, invoked the War of 1812. Not really the war, but the fact that, the English colony, British colony, and Canada burned down the White House. He had a call with Justin Trudeau. This comes to us from CNN. Trudeau pressed Trump on how he could justify the tariffs as a national security issue, and in response, Trump quipped to Trudeau, "Didn't you guys burn down the White House?" referring to the war-ish of 1812.
And let it go yet.
Of course, listen, there's been a long-standing tension between Trudeau and President Trump. It's not a secret, and we actually have exclusive footage of the phone call, I believe. Hello, this is Canada.
Okay, so this is how you want to play ball, huh?
Mr. President, I absolutely...
Okay, frankly, you guys even play ball over there?
Now, that is needlessly insulting. Of course we do.
What about in Montreal?
No.
That's what I thought. Okay, frankly, this is how it's gonna go, okay? You're going to stop the tariffs, and you're going to start upholding your end of the deal, okay?
Mr. President,
Trade
okay,
deal.
I and the rest of Canada won't be pushed around by the likes of you.
Oh, hey, some fire. There's the spirit of the guys who burned down the White House.
Excuse me?
Our White House. You burned it down in 1812. Was a bold move. Okay, caught us by surprise. But that's just because no one expects their friends to burn down their shit. By the way, Trump Towers withstood many fires. The greatest fire.
And Mr. President, that wasn't even Canada, eh? It was technically still a British colony.
Okay, frankly, you think
still,
you're
if
so
you-
clever. Need I remind you about the Revolutionary War? The Mexican-American War? The Spanish-American War? The Civil War? Freed those guys, okay? Persian Gulf War? World War I? The sequel? If you don't buy your Pews accused, there's gonna be a threequel, like Godfather 3.
Mr. President, like I said, that wasn't Canada.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. Because you guys bent over for the British. Unlike the people who fought them off to become the greatest country the world has ever seen. Frankly, the greatest. Your people bent over and took it into
You, Mr. President, are a vulgarity.
Okay, frankly, that's why you still have that old hag on your body. We have Washington, Lincoln, great men. Frankly, the best men.
Okay, I won't be pushed around by you.
You know something else? They're gonna make a coin of me, okay? They're gonna make a coin with Trump, with my face on the side of it. You know what's gonna be on the other side of the Trump coin?
No, I don't know.
Me. Still me. Spanking your ass.
It's almost like he takes it. Like he's a whipping
What I
post.
love about Trump the most is he's so transparent with his schedule. Like, he's not aware of it, but you know exactly. He was probably Wikipediaing himself that morning, stumbled across the page about 1812, and like, I'm gonna work this in.
Hey, Peds, can you believe this shit? Look at our house. This house, not in my house.
Same thing with his Fox and Friends obsession. You just know, you can know exactly where he's getting his points
Yeah,
from.
this is like breaking news for him.
Hey, Melania, Kilbean said it's fake news. Kilbean says it, it's good. By the way, the National Institutes of Health are spending $350,000 on a new study. Or I guess they spent $350,000 to find out if lesbians are using the right form of contraception. Yeah.
Let that
Leading
sink in.
researcher is Jenny Higgins, an associate professor in gender women's studies. There's a surprise.
Yep.
The study is examining, quote, unique barriers lesbians and bisexuals, keyword being bisexuals, have to adequate contraceptive care. Just so you know, the massive study began with a questionnaire, beginning with, are you a lesbian, and ending with them collecting a check. That's...
That's all.
And it may sound absurd. Some said the study was simply meant to parlay funding actually into their next study regarding the vexing correlation between gay men and fondness for breasts. It looks like
Oh, that's
correlation does not equal causation.
Yes.
Doesn't bigot.
And another study by another $250,000 to deliberate over the new FAA rules for penguins. So that was another. Who also happened to be gay. I should have clarified.
Oh. At least they're getting into the spirit, right?
See,
They
Steven,
can't get their backs.
the more it's lesbianism is not linear. It's a sphere. It's a circle. It's a circle of the spectrum. So the more lesbian you become, actually more susceptible to pregnancy you are.
Yes, that's
how it
exactly
works.
right.
And they're
I love how they just.
It's impossible.
I
we
love
paid
how
we paid $3 million for that discovery.
I love how they toss in bisexual. It's like, we're going to study,
Yeah.
we want to study lesbians and have access to contraceptive care. I don't think, and bisexuals.
Okay.
Done.
Yeah, there we go.
Cut the check.
I cannot. Sven Computer, this is a true story, right?
This is a true story. Yeah, indeed. Beep beep. Unlike certain parts in German history. Beep beep.
Oh, you're a Holocaust denier now.
All
are you?
right. Speaking of
deleting that.
raging lesbians.
I take that back.
No. Well, he's only thinking it back because it's a violation of the German Constitution.
It is.
Exactly.
It literally is. Remember that time we were doing a bit?
Recorded.
Remember that knock, Jared? We were
Yep.
doing, and
It was a great bit. It was hilarious. I can't say that. I would never be able to go back.
What? It's an actual violation of the German Constitution to say this about what.
This part will have to be scrubbed from the episode.
Yeah, exactly.
This part will not be scrubbed from the episode, so
you're screwed, buddy.
better keep rolling those burns. Speaking of angry, raging lesbians, at least I assume so. Cecil Richards? Cecile Richards? Cecile? Not the lion. The bad one.
No.
Planned Parenthood fame. She sparked outrage. I hate to use it but she tweeted, "The Trump administration policy of taking children from their families is immoral. We as a nation are better than this. #families belong together." So I want to make sure you understand this. Yeah. Cecile Richards, president of an organization that profits off of literally dismembering babies and sucking them down a tube, is expressing moral outrage over deporting illegal immigrants. Yeah. I just let that sit in. Yeah. Reminds me of the time when Adolf Hitler told Winston Churchill that he was being a total dick. Yeah. Or when Mao accused the Chinese citizens of senseless violence and scratching my tanks. I paid the money for those tanks. You ruined the wheel wells. I just bought those white walls.
Why can't you use Cha?
To be clear, this is. She later explained herself that after seeing all of those born alive children and tweeted her expressive tweet, which was all that money down the drain. That's really what she was upset about.
That was
all that money
opportunity.
down
Some
the
new tariffs.
drain. Speaking of expressing herself, and also likely a raging angry lesbian, who knows? I know she's married, but I would love to meet that husband. Samantha Bee apologized, and just as you would think, it's the worst apology. It's the worst non-apology. It's not even a non-apology. It's just bad.
You know, a lot of people were offended and angry that I used an epithet to describe the president's daughter and advisor last week. Yes. It is a word I have used on the show many times, hoping to reclaim it. I never intended it to hurt anyone except Ted Cruz. Many men were also offended by my use of the word. I do not care about that. I should have known that a potty-mouthed insult would be inherently more interesting to them than juvenile immigration policy. If you are worried about the death of civility, don't sweat it. I'm a comedian. I am. I'm really sorry that I said that word, but you know what? Civility is just nice words. Maybe we should all worry a little bit more about the niceness of our actions. Okay, thanks for listening.
I agree with that, but guess what? Her actions are her show. Her words are her actions. That's all she does. So first off, let's go through that really quick. She said her words never were intended to hurt anyone. What about Ivanka? It's like, well, no, you have to take it in context, okay? You called her a feckless In which context was that designed to be anything short of an insult? Then she goes, she said, I don't care about them because men aren't allowed to have opinions on someone else's actions, even if you're calling said man's wife the C word, I guess. Then she blames the news media cycle. It's true. Listen, the media absolutely sucks. The news media, the cable news outrage cycle, but so does she. She's the one who feeds into that. She sources from salon.com, so she's kind of lost her leg to stand on. And then she closed it by putting on the comedian hat, which used to bother me a lot about Jon Stewart, and even more when Trevor Noah does. Even more when Samantha Bee does it, talking about how actions matter more than words. These are her actions. And here's the thing. She hosts a show in which they do nothing but feign outrage. You noticed that, right?
Yeah.
Did you see? Does anyone else see the irony here?
Yeah, and she's absolutely terrible at everything that she does, apparently. She can't even do this correctly.
She's not that bad about when she comes to lying about statistical realities. No. She's effective.
That's the brilliance of the left.
You got a letter jacket for that one.
The brilliance of the left. They own the media, so they can just always go up there and cover their own tracks. Just like Bill Clinton. Did you see Bill Clinton on Colbert where he basically teed him up to apologize for all of his comments about Monica Lewinsky and not apologizing?
Well, she talks about, because I know it's more interesting than Donald Trump's asinine immigration policy. Oh, yes, because Samantha Bee, clearly you're in the minority when it comes to the media berating Trump over his immigration policy. You're the one swinging, you're swimming upstream, right? That's what's happening here. You're risking it, Samantha. This is what they always hold themselves out as martyrs. It's Samantha Bee, you are the news cycle. You're a part of it. It's TBS. I think Turner Broadcasting is, if I'm not mistaken, is the parent company. Isn't it the parent company there, Sven?
It is, I think, yeah.
Ted Turner.
Yeah.
He's riding in on a bison, giving money to the DNC. And all this show constantly demands apologies from people. Well, subsequently, now they're providing a non-apology apology. So here's how an honest apology would have been. And I don't want an apology from Samantha Bee.
No.
Right, here's the thing. Either apologize or just be honest. So, okay, I got caught. I called the president's daughter C-word. Yeah, was intended to be hurtful. I've done it in the past. I thought I could continue to get away with it. I'm wrong. Sorry to those I deliberately aimed to hurt. Or just don't apologize. Either would be fine. That's the only reason. I'm not offended.
I'm a little clueless here, too, that she sucked at apologizing, and she said she wanted to reclaim the C-word?
I don't know. That's the thing.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
What that means, but even if it meant you want to make that word cool again, was it ever cool?
Well, remember how much flack we got into, not KJ, when we did that poster of Hillary Clinton, bitch? And we said bitch is going to be the new N-word.
And we dialed it back from bitch. Yeah, and we still got a lot of flack.
Yeah, we still got a lot of flack. We had the picture of Hillary Clinton, like the Obama, blue and red. You can go back and read the article. We said,
That's
watch,
great Photoshop.
this election, it was fantastic. And we said, this election,
proud of it.
bitch is going to be the new N-word. They're going. Everyone who is racist will wake up and all of a sudden be considered a racist. Be considered a sexist. I apologize. And whose phone was that? Whose phone was that?
That was Nightline.
Oh, you know what? That was Nightline. That was my phone. Anyway, moving on from Samantha Bee. Let us know what you think. Seattle's homeless tent mansion, if for those who don't, that's the term that's been coined, has been growing so much to the point where they even added a keg. Yeah. So
Now it's a
since
party.
April, and even though it's an eyesore to neighbors and tourists, city officials have said that the multi-tent encampment is a low priority for sweeps, so they felt comfortable enough to bring over a keg to the site. Though they did warn residents to not share beverages. Also, they posted a notice to those who use the homeless tent mansion jacuzzi should probably be tested for AIDS.
Yeah.
Really, you're being tested for not AIDS, because if you use the homeless tent mansion jacuzzi and dodge that bullet, we want to know how.
Sometimes
Could hold the cure.
sometimes gentrification is a good thing. Scratch that. It's a
Great thing. Sometimes it's a great thing. Yeah,
By the way,
absolutely.
it's expensive to have a keg. You got to rent the machine, like the equipment. Who's in the tent city that's homeless has money to go get a keg?
Who's
Car
prioritizing that?
to go get the keg?
Methadone
Yeah.
or Bud Light Lime?
You know it's craft. Don't
Bad choice.
don't give me that.
Speaking of things I don't like, feral peacocks. They're now attacking luxury cars in British Columbia. I think we have some B-roll of this, don't we? Of these actual peacocks. Look, they've been attacking. It actually comes from CBS News.
It's a Mustang. That's not
The
luxury.
pesky peafowl, they're saying, are taking property damage to a whole new level. They've been running rampant throughout the town, attacking cars, attacking buildings. And some thought this was actually due to the peacock's mating season. Some actually were blaming it, of course, in a clash with urban sprawl, as you see a lot, until the peacock started a hashtag, Peacocks Lives Matter, and now we see what their true motive was. I don't know how else it could have ended up.
They're organized.
They are.
The peacock do-rag.
They're more organized than Sean King.
They are. They have more going on for them too. Better funding.
Yeah, better funding.
Yeah.
I still can't believe Rachel.
It's because they're not pocketing half of it.
An Ontario teacher's license, by the way, was suspended for 2 months after she told the student to. I can't even necessarily read this. She told the student, quote, "Lick me where I'm paraphrasing, flatulate." Yeah, she said this teacher had her license revoked in Ontario for telling the student to lick me where I fart. On my way, said Kevin Spacey. So happy.
They don't have those kind of windows in
Kevin
planes.
Spacey, I hope you find.
I'll be there.
That's creative, though. You got to give her some credit.
This is a true story, right, Sven Computer?
This is a true story from Ottawa. I mean,
But here's the funniest part of that story. I read through the article, a headline like it doesn't get any worse than this, does it?
Yeah.
No, it gets better. Among other things, a student complained that, quote, she told another student, "It sounds like your ass cheeks are too close together." This angry teacher says to a student, I'd like to talk about my red. Your ass cheeks sound like they're too close together.
They're flapping when you walk in the hallway.
Don't bother me.
She only got 2 months.
I got papers to correct.
I didn't get my Starbucks.
We thought it was funny until we realized this had actually been an ongoing problem. It's a condition.
Oh.
I mean, the teacher was always difficult, but when she brought up my condition, that was crossing the line. I've suffered with gluteus constrictivitis my whole life. To be teased by students is one thing, kids are cruel. But to be called out by the teacher like that, it's beyond poor taste.
But the student in question was diagnosed with gluteus constrictivitis at age 6. And despite all the teasing, claims he was beginning to make peace with it.
How would I describe it? Well, it's kind of like an overbite for my ass.
I was confused, but thank God.
Oh.
What was it? What does it take to get fired in a socialist country? I don't understand. Like, what if that doesn't get it? I don't know what does.
Well, her license was revoked.
I said, but for like 2 months.
I mean, she should be in the terrorist watch list at least.
Yeah. No-fly list. Apparently, the fastest way to get a vacation is to tell a child his ass sucks.
John McAfee should be offering to unlock her phone for the feds.
This is somebody who no longer cares.
I didn't realize that was an insult.
No.
Here's the thing. You know this isn't the first time this person used it.
No.
That's a go-to.
No.
Your ass cheeks sound like they're too close together.
Like I said, it's creative. I give her points for that.
Am I a conehead? All right. We have to get going to, we're going to have RazorFist and then Governor Mike Huckabee. So here's the other outrage of the day, because this has been a jam-packed week for news, and then it slowed down come Thursday. Thank God for Cultural Appropriation Month.
There we go.
The Forbes 100 highest paid athletes list came out, and there wasn't a single woman on the list. Cue outrage.
Well, this is disappointing. For the first time ever, no woman made Forbes' list of 100 top-paid athletes. Topping the list were unsurprising names like Floyd Mayweather, Messi, and Ronaldo.
Yeah.
Okay, so of course, instant complaints, calling it a damning indictment you see from leftists and journalists.
I thought this was going to piss you off a little bit because the highest paid are soccer players, and I thought that would be, a little bit of rage.
Usually I would be upset at the injustice of it all, but at the end of the day, they still have to live the rest of their life as soccer players. So.
Their penance is the rest of
You
their
have to
life.
look yourself in the mirror.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, the fight for equal pay in sports is nothing new. It's been going on for a while now. We've covered this.
These women, they train just as hard as the men do. We inspire as many young players around the world as the men do. And so there's no reason why you need to have 100, 200 to 1 disparity in pay.
For me, it comes down to simply a matter of inequity. It's not, women are not paid the same amount of money as blokes in so many professions, and I think we need to pay women more in sport.
The women's soccer team is taking legal action because they want more.
Players on the U.S. women's national soccer team say they're being discriminated against because they make less than members of the men's team.
Okay.
Well, look, even when the men's team doesn't make the World Cup like previously, they still draw more people than the women's team when they win the World Cup.
Do you notice a lot of words that you hear in there? You hear, I think. Apparently, you invented a language. Don't pronounce your THs, by the way. I think they deserve more. Women feel you think you want more. I want.
Me. You're welcome for that movie as well.
Yeah, actually, that one was underrated. I know you got flack for that, but I still think it was pretty good. Here's the thing: athletes, they don't ever talk about earnings, which is the key. This is what it is: earnings. Athletes' earnings. Athletes get paid based on how much money people pay to see them play. Yeah. And people don't pay as much to see female athletes. People pay more money to see Floyd Mayweather than Chris Cyborg. They pay more money to see LeBron James than they do. Hey Google, who's the top player in the WNBA? There's no one didn't even have an answer. I guess it's Siri. It's like, see Siri. And Siri's saying, I don't go back to ask Google.
Go back to Google.
Refer to Google.
Nobody knows.
And it's something that I don't understand. And I know they'll say, well, it's because of your male privilege. It's a blind spot. But no. Here's the thing. There are plenty of areas where women far out, they excel well beyond, I meant to say outperform men. And then I said excel, and it's like I had this hat. It's too tight. It's a wonder the Jews are still so successful in every realm of business and intellect when they have these tight hats.
Despite the hat.
And it's very hot. I'm quite certain I have lice. I don't think we shouldn't have got these secondhand from the costume shop.
That's a good idea.
Daily Stormer's going to cut this section out and be like, see, yes, I knew he was Jewish. Hear him complain.
They're going to cut my part out from earlier, beep beep.
No, they're not going to. They're going to cut my part out so that Angela Merkel doesn't have it on a loop like a morphine drip.
I didn't mean it. Please don't put me in there.
His computer at the bottom.
Look at the Forbes top list of paid models. They're all women. All of them. They've always been women. And this is what we were saying earlier about Mrs. America. I'm going now. Yeah, that are going to be so mad. Mrs. America isn't married. You think she needs a man? No, I'm not saying she changed her surname.
No.
You're patriarchy, Shelley.
Society celebrates women's bodies because they're beautiful. They celebrate women because they're beautiful. Generally, men are only celebrated for their functionality. Now, it's not that a man can't have an attractive body or face, and it's not that a woman can't be functional. It's just that men naturally tend to excel at being the biggest, fastest, strongest, while women tend to naturally excel at being far more beautiful than a sweaty, hairy guy.
It's not even about who's the most popular, because, you can argue Ronda Rousey is popular, but no one's watching her stuff. And athletically, even the weakest NBA players can mop the floor with her.
Right.
Kevin Durant, for instance. I'm sure he can, when he's not spending his money and time destigmatizing anorexia.
friend of the show, Andrew Bogut.
Andrew Bogut.
Yeah.
Give him 6 weeks of training.
Yep.
Watch Ronda Rousey tough girl thing, or an angry lesbian Brazilian named Amanda Nunes. So here's the thing: men are they're gonna do better in paid sports. Well, women tend to dominate fashion, glamour, modeling industries. Now, here's the thing: but when you look behind the outrage at women not being on the top athletes list, it's this desire to completely erase the differences between men and women. This is what we've been talking about. This is what everyone else out there knows. Have you noticed, by the way, YouTube's bizarre obsession with tranny makeup tutorials on the trending page?
How many do you need? There's like one style. There's one genre of makeup. One tutorial should do.
Well, because it's in tandem with there's a real push for tranny cover girls, tranny Playboy playmates, tranny women of the male women of the year. I don't get the obsession.
So confusing.
What's so funny is we talked about this, and some of the angry leftist atheists on Twitter, like, oh, that's based on your own search history. No, it's not, dummy. I'm not saying it's the trending list on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's like makeup haul and tranny with rouge. I don't know why they're pushing on us. I think I do. It's the same idea. They want to push men into this female-dominated industry, just like they want equality of outcome with women in sports. They want equality of opportunity. Here's the thing: we've always talked. You can either have equality of opportunity, or you can have equality of outcomes.
Right.
That's it. You cannot have both.
Yeah, and you always want equality of opportunity. That's the only thing you ever want. Just a fair shot to do what you do.
Equality of outcome results when you have things like affirmative action, when you have things like specific scholarships for race or gender. What happens? It actually removes the opportunity, the fair opportunity to someone who can earn it, to give it to someone where it is unearned. Equal outcomes. Look, let's use this analogy here in sports. Okay, if we say, you know what, there's only $500 million for soccer. I know there's far more, but let's go with what it deserves. There's only $5 in soccer. Okay, so you have to separate it $2.50 equally to the men and the women. When the women lose to high school boys teams and people don't want to watch them play, what does that mean? That means there's going to be far less money for the sport that would be profitable, where men deserve the opportunity to earn their keep. They don't get the opportunity to earn it. Equal outcomes cannot, ensured equal outcomes, cannot result in equal opportunity. And I don't know why it's hard for
women in sports is such a perfect example of the free market at work, because even women don't want to watch other women in sports. No. It's not a thing. It's not a thing, and that's why that's also why you have the left pushing people like Scarlett Johansson, who sucks in Avengers, or Atomic Blonde.
What is her superpower?
She has a superpower, but they have to. They love it because that's the fantasy world is the only way they can kick a man's ass.
What is it?
I don't know. She was.
You just said she does. I don't know.
I don't know.
Does she have a superpower?
No, she doesn't have any superpower. She's just there.
Okay.
She had a hard childhood.
Her superpower, she made the casting cut, even with her man voice.
No.
They picked a pretty girl. That's not our fault.
She was great in The Prestige, though. That's because she died.
You like my leather outfit. But this ties right back into Miss America, right? We're saying it should be about personality and intelligence. I was thinking, well, if that's the case, great. Just give it to Betty White. She's sharper than any of those girls.
Hilarious.
And that's why it's not fair. Again, this is to remove the essence of what makes a human a human.
People still want to sleep with her.
Someone like Winston Churchill. But we've been talking about, he's never going to win a beauty contest.
No.
So instead, he uses his Winston Churchillness, his intellect and his wit, to be successful.
Kick ass.
By the same token, Miss America is never going to be Winston Churchill. But now we're demanding that she try to be Winston Churchill, because for her to not be Winston Churchill is actually sexist, even though she signed up to walk 6 steps in a bikini.
That's confusing.
It's not that confusing.
No, I mean, why would they do that?
In trying to force equal outcomes, you end up eliminating what makes people who they are. So beauty and physical strength are both forms of power. And this is why ugly feminists hate beautiful women, and weak men hate stronger men, and the women who like strong men. So instead of trying to be more attractive, instead of trying to get stronger, the left does what it does. They try to demonize achievement, whether it's beauty or strength. Some people are beautiful. Some people have great personalities. For some, it's great physical prowess. Not all people are born with all the things.
Nope.
And that's okay.
I've tried.
Well, and every time you do equal outcomes, you get rid of greatness, because you have to bring other people down. Nobody can be great anymore. Nobody can be super beautiful or can be LeBron James. I know you hate him. Whatever, fine. Right? You always
wait.
Equal.
When did Knock Jared start hating LeBron James?
No, I don't hate him.
No, I know, but
No.
you said some bad stuff about him in the past. We know about that.
What, you're mad at him now?
No, I just think I'm not mad at him.
Did
I'm
he
mad at
ask-
all
did
of
he ask for his
Cleveland.
high school
for it.
ring back?
No, I'm mad at all of Cleveland.
You should always be mad at all of Cleveland.
Now I really am.
Cleveland.
It's
Now
the only
now I
sane,
mean it.
I lived there. It's the only sane thing you can do.
It's like saying, I've been disappointed in Detroit this quarter.
Yeah. of a
What was
century.
the tipping point? They removed the Coney Island I liked. Oh, well, there you go.
There you go.
When it comes to men, they're just better at performing at higher levels when it comes to athletics. Don't believe Sven
Period.
Computer brought this up. Look, we have the actual overlay here of what happens when they go head to head with boys. 15-year-old boys.
It's not pretty.
15-year-old boys fan computer?
Yes, under 15-year-olds even.
So you could have been on that team. And there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. Well, okay, there's a lot wrong with that. But what I mean is there's nothing wrong with accepting that men are better at certain things, including athletics. Just like, by the way, it's okay to accept that women are better at certain things. And the Miss America, the Forbes list and the complaints, it's the exact same complaint you see from the left as you do with Bernie Sanders, as you do with Black Lives Matter, as you do with Pussy Hat Economics. It's just people screaming, everyone has to be special! Son of a bitch! When everyone's special, right? It's the Incredibles. Bernie Sanders needs to watch The Incredibles. Gretchen Carlson needs to watch The Incredibles. Anyone mad about the fact that women are not making more than Floyd Mayweather, arguably the best defensive boxer of all time? Need to just watch The Incredibles. When everyone you declare to be special, then nobody is. We're so concerned about correcting papers with a red pen now that it's banned in certain states and provinces because it might hurt someone's self-esteem. But let's not actually acknowledge a kid for an area where he's talented. Let's tell them they're all. You know what helps a kid's self-esteem? You know what helps a girl's self-esteem or a boy's self-esteem? Is finding what they're great at, discouraging what they suck at or what is destructive, and pushing them on down that path. You can't do that when you're guaranteeing equal outcomes. We'll talk more about that after the break. We have to get to RazorFist, and then I think Governor Mike Huckabee and RazorFist after. What do you expect? You're shooting with the rockets while I'm doing the monologue. What'd you think would happen? Mug Club, come join the Mug Club, come join the Mug Club, because the tumblers suck. Mug Club, come join the Mug Club, come join the Mug Club, so I can eat some cheese.
No matter what I do, always be together. You should know. No matter what I do, always be together. Always be together.
It's a tool. It's a tool. I don't realize what I have. It's just a tool. You know?
Yeah, that's why they do it.
Polar Express when they pull the beer and he goes, "Ay!" Only I own all the banks. So our next guest, always a fan, one of my favorite guests on the show, and I'm hoping that him appearing on the show, more people are going and checking out his YouTube channel. He's on the Twitter at RazorFist with a 0. And I'm trying to remember, his YouTube is very hard for me to remember. But Mr. Fist, what's your YouTube channel exactly again?
Extremely convoluted URL. It's youtube.com/C for some reason /the Rageaholic. I don't know why.
Rageaholic. Well, let's try and consolidate that at some point, and maybe you won't be so rageful. But
if only there were a vast conspiracy I could blame.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I just blame the YouTube moderators. They've usually done something wrong, and they'll fess up to it, even if they haven't done anything. They just go like, "Oh yeah, I probably did do that."
Yeah, it sounds like me.
You guys can call me RazorFist Razorblatt.
Yes,
today,
exactly.
I think.
Steen.
I'll be conducting this interview from within triple sets of parentheses.
Yes, it's RazorFist Blatt Steenbergen. And married to Ted Danson. I don't know how that works out, but it seems like they all are. Now, hey, RazorFist, you did a video recently on Joe McCarthy, and I know this caught on. Sorry, this is catching up with me. I'm getting a little bit heated here. Explain to people why you thought that was important, because I know you do a lot of video game stuff. You've sort of gotten more into cultural commentary, and McCarthyism, right, is a term that's thrown around quite a bit. It's lost all meaning.
Right. No, actually, it was originally about. It was sort of more about how Hollywood communism infiltrated the entire sort of area and how it relates to current California politics, and really how people today have conflated McCarthyism and Hollywood communism,
right?
The whole hearings thing, which they're actually two distinct things.
McCarthy was right sometimes. That's one thing people don't realize. Sometimes they were right in spotting communists.
Well, and that's the thing. After the fall of the Berlin Wall, after it went, Splitsky, they uncovered all these communiques. They were reprinted in several books, actually. The Soviet World of American Communism by Harvey Clare, John Earl Haynes, and Kirill Anderson, I believe. They actually reprinted word for word the communiques. And you found out that apparently the Soviet Union were funding the American Communist Party, including the Hollywood Communist Party, to the tune of between 1/3 and 1/2 of their overall operating budget.
Yeah.
Like, Yeah, they were, and just Hollywood alone, they were dropping at least $2 million annually. You know, the same amount like an American politician spends on ads every 4 years, except they were doing it every year.
Or ass, if you're Bill.
Yeah, depends. Well, that's all part of the expense budget.
Either way, taxpayers are footing the bill.
Yeah, either way. So, okay, so, and that ties into, so you did this video. I highly recommend people go check it out at C/the Rageaholic. But that ties into, obviously, you have the California Senate run. I mean, it's kind of really with California, outside of the Arnold issue, when it comes to state politics, when it comes to the state legislature, and of course the House and Senate, it's which Democrat is really going to win, or Republican with a D in their name, effectively.
Well, yeah, but like, how badly did Jerry Brown have to up as governor to get a Republican within 6 points of victory in California? Like point. That state is bluer than Jared's balls over there. If you put you could put a D next to Trump's name, they'd elect him king without even checking.
Yeah.
Like, how do you even do that? What, did he hide their hash brownies? Like, how does that even work in the state of California?
I am constantly vexed at California. There was an article that someone just tried, I think at the New York Times, they tried to pass it off as though it was a great state for business. It's actually not. And if you remove Silicon Valley, it's not growing at all. And I think LA, for the first time, has seen population stagnation, if not decline, relatively speaking. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but compared to Texas, and you have a lot of Californians moving from California in businesses. You have State Farm, Toyota, Liberty Mutual to Texas, but then they bring their policies there. So I really just think it comes down to Californians are often retarded.
Yes, speaking of Jewish appropriation, it's it's a mass exodus, is what it is.
Yes, it is. They get here and they're going to start, instead of bitching about manna, they're going to start bitching about, can I pay more taxes? There's no state tax and a surplus. How do you live here?
I feel like I should pay more.
The thing that blows me away is, like, even though DNC numbers are down, like, did you see what some of these, particularly the entrenched California Democrats, like, won by? Yeah, like, these dudes are pulling down, like, South American dictator numbers.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what's that, Feinstein? You won by 1,005%? Oh, yeah, that's not, I don't know, that's not fishier than Stormy Daniels in a sauna.
All right, we get where this is going. I think I could after you said Stormy, I was like, this can only end one way.
This is bad.
So okay, what do you think is going to happen with California? You've been covering this quite a bit, or you're interested in it quite a bit. Do you think California rights the ship, or do you think it just crashes itself into oblivion eventually?
Well, come on. Like I said, they will elect literally anything with a D next to their name. I mean, they reelected Jerry Jonestown Brown. You know what I mean? Like, anyone, this guy spoke at Jim Jones's church. He appointed Jim Jones illegally the housing commissioner of San Francisco. 1,000 dead commies in, the worst pinko potluck in human history. And 30 years later, they reelect the guy because apparently Pol Pot was booked. You think this is a state that's turning it around?
No,
you know what I mean?
No. It's going to be the state equivalent of Detroit, which is sad because of all the rich natural resources. I mean, it really should be. When they say, well, California is actually still the 5th biggest economy in the world, it's like, well, it's a coastal state with more resources than any state ever. Yeah. The funniest story to me, we were just talking about it this week, for those who aren't Mud Club members, to me, the funniest story, which I believe crystallizes California perfectly, is when Tom Selleck was charged with stealing water for his avocado farm. I just thought, that's Tom Selleck stealing water. He doesn't even like avocados. That's a fascinating thing. I don't even know how he was doing. Was he siphoning it? I think he was putting it in trucks. But it's like, in California, it's like, if you guys just didn't dam everything up, if you guys allowed yourselves to actually use the water, so?
You're so close to the border, you can get your guacamole there.
How else are you going to grow that? How else do you grow that magnificent mustache? You need a sod farm under there. You got to nourish it.
You would think so.
Smearing it into his face.
I think we've about tapped this conversation. Basically, in California, it doesn't matter if you have a D next to your name in San Francisco, a D in your take whatever your pick is here. What's your thought on the? We were just talking about this earlier. I would imagine you have a lot of thoughts on this because it's kind of more cultural, social. People complaining that no female athletes are amongst the top paid in Forbes 100, and they've removed the bikini and obviously evening gown from Miss America. It's like there's been a crap storm of just destroying the idea that women can be beautiful this week.
It really is. When I heard that, I naturally assumed the fix was in for Amy Schumer, but then I remembered there was actually a talent portion. So no, sadly.
Good Lord, you are
unless Shrill is a talent. But.
Yes. Well, or your vagina smelling like a barnyard animal and tagging that with the exact same joke 15 times. No, I mean, that's what we were telling it earlier. If it's about intellect, if it's about personality, send in Betty White. She just cleans house. You know, it's a beauty pageant.
Well, that's the thing. If I want to watch some broad tell me what charities she donates to and, listen to her demonstrate Tibetan throat singing, I could always date an anthropology major. It's not hard. They're all over catmoms.com or whatever the hell.
It's funny that you say that. I thought it was, I forgot. It's Tibetan throat singing or Mongolian throat singing. It is Tibetan.
Oh, yeah.
I had a cab driver in Los Angeles.
I can't do it.
Do Tibetan throat singing. He wanted me to do it. Was like the he's like, do it with me. It's kind of going and it's basically whistling and humming at the same time, and it sounds like when Jim Carrey in Dumb and Dumber said tractor beam. Suddenly right in. I had a cab driver who would not let me off the hook without Tibetan throat singing. So why do you know about it?
Well, you see, I have a past at a Tibetan monastery. Actually.
Yeah, I can imagine. And then Brad Pitt came and made that crappy
There's a lot
movie.
you don't know about me.
But it is. I mean, we were just talking about this. Have you ever sat down, because all the top models paid are women, have you ever sat down and been angry and said, why are these women being paid so much money to be on the cover of these magazines, and gotten bitter about it?
Yeah, I don't know about you, but my head doesn't hit the pillow at night without thinking about, how much Cindy Crawford was paid for that shitty Doritos commercial.
Or Elle Macpherson for her poor performance in The Edge. That's the only negative in that film. It's still a positive, let's be honest, but she wasn't great.
That was a really specific reference.
Because I tell you what, when I was a kid, it was Elle Macpherson in The Edge. I was all about the Elle Macpherson. The Bod, she was known. Apparently perfect dimensions. Could you imagine that nowadays? She was known as the Bod because she had the perfect dimensions, which, by the way, were not thin. She wasn't a thin girl. She was more of a Kate Upton type, and men loved her. She was 6 foot, bosomy, and, we gave her a lot of money.
Almost like it's a pageant or something. You know what I mean? Like
it's a pageant.
Can you imagine this metric being applied anywhere else on God's green earth? Any other pageant, like, welcome to the Westminster Dog Show, where we'll be handing out first prize ribbons if you lick your balls and chase a laser pointer. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't really work that way. You're supposed to stand there and linger your hand uncomfortably near my dog's balls for 45 minutes. Okay,
And
do
then
it like a normal
best in class, best case scenario, an old lady sticks his thumb up the dog's ass and works it up so it gets the right posture. No, imagine if they were to say at Westminster, like, well, you know what? It's not so much about purebreds, so we're going to do it with rescues. And it's just some pug that comes out with a missing eye, or some border collie that looks like it was blown up in the Mexican-American War. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't understand. Well, I understand it. I understand it completely. Okay, we do have to get going. What is it that you would want people to check out most on your channel? Let's think. If we have to go back to it, the McCarthy issue. Why?
Definitely check it out. Yeah, that video. It's actually called "Hollywood Was Always Red." It's more about the Hollywood communism hearings. Ronald Reagan factors in there. It's sort of the history of how communism infiltrated Hollywood in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, and how that was brought to light, and how sort of modern Hollywood has been left the custodians of the narrative of it. And so it's been conflated into this McCarthyist witch hunt kind of counter narrative that isn't really accurate at all.
And what kind of pushback did you receive for this video?
Pushback? Look, you got a backhoe? Plenty. I'm making friends all over the world. I'm like Billy Idol's dick.
I don't think he's making friends in any part of the world anymore. That reference might have worked in I don't know, 92. I'm trying to think of back when it would have been relevant. No, I think a lot of people. What inspired you to do this video? Because it's not something that's incredibly topical, and it's something that we've talked about on here before. I know there are books on this. I think. Not the white supremacist. Who's the other one? Which one's the white supremacist? Is it Richard Spencer or Robert Spencer?
Richard Spencer.
Okay, Robert Spencer is the one who I think wrote a book on it, The Politically Incorrect Guide to Hollywood Communism. But what inspired you to write this, to do this recently?
I read a lot of books about it that inspired me to. Originally, I was just going to do sort of a quick 10-minute rant, about the House Un-American Activities Committee. By the end, it had ballooned into this half-hour, anti-Bolshevik barrage thing. You have no idea how expensive Pinochet's helicopter is to rent. You have no freaking idea.
I can guess, yeah.
But no, Hollywood Party by Kenneth Lloyd Billingsley is a really good book to pick up on that. It's a good overview. It's written in around 97. I know Ann Coulter wrote one more about McCarthy called Treason, I want to say. And there's a number of pretty Blacklisted from History, I think, is another McCarthy book. Some good ones, but mostly it was about the House Un-American Activities Committee, which actually had nothing to do with McCarthy at all.
No, that's a good point. And actually, it's funny. I know people are going to say, oh, he just cited Ann Coulter, loses all credibility. People actually go back to Ann Coulter's writing, specifically earlier on. She was meticulous about sourcing, about referencing. Doesn't mean she was always right. She was always willing to stand in there and trade. This was before the whole kind of becoming effectively a cheerleader for Trump. A lot of people aren't aware that she was really a fantastic writer and did her due diligence. All right, that is on the Twitter at RazorFist with a 0, right? Not K. Jared? And on the YouTube /C/The Rageaholic or Rageaholic?
The Rageaholic,
The
sir.
Rageaholic. Gosh, you're not making it easy for us.
I know.
But
I'm hiding from it.
we're going to point people towards this video. I hope they learn up on it, and I hope you are heavily armed, sir.
Indeed.
We'll be back after this. I think, after this, we have Governor Huckabee, I think. Crazy show. Hey, one live read of the week. Listen, if you enjoy Cultural Appropriation Month and other festivities that YouTube would never allow natively on its platform, please do join at louderwithcrowder.com/mugclub. You get access to the entire CRTV lineup, this wonderful hand-etched mug for $99, $69 annually if you're student, veteran, or active military, and of course you get the daily show. It's what keeps this channel going because no one knows what's going to happen with YouTube or social media here in the future. Also, if you don't want to join up at Mug Club, because you're a cheap bastard, you can support our sponsors. We only have a handful. The biggest one has been Walther for a long time. They've re-upped with us, and by the way, for those who were looking earlier, this was an airsoft gun. So Walther, I highly recommend for a home defense pistol. Their PPQ, this is a replica of that as an airsoft gun with which I shot Palestinian terrorist earlier today. I think was it Umarex?
Umarex.
Umarex, yeah. If you're looking for airsoft guns too, not only a pistol, they're really good quality.
Pretty accurate PPQ.
Walther does everything very well.
Yes.
And that's the thing. It makes it really easy for a sponsor of ours. A lot of you I know are gun enthusiasts, and a lot of you are saying, hey, what should I do for my first firearm? Okay, they have their PPQ, that's their full size, they have their PPS to carry, and then they have one that's in between. All we ask is that if you go to a shooting range, understand they have the balls to support this show, where a lot of firearm companies are afraid. They actually play ball with the left. Walther stepped up. They support the show, and we just ask, go out and try it. When you go to a shooting range, see if it's not the try the Glock, try the Smith & Wesson, try all of them, try the Walther. And we're pretty confident about the choice we made in our sponsorship. So Mug Club, Walther, those are the two big ones. Enjoy the show. Someone can tweet me at SCrowder. I don't know what Hadouken means either. They could be saying something incredibly profane in that video game, and I play it, and kids play. You have no idea.
No idea.
No idea.
That's what we need the rating
systems.
Their
culture. We did Japan last year. We missed that boat. Our next guest, I very much appreciate that he's come on the show, and I know he's not feeling that well, so you can. He's been on the show many times. You can follow him at Gov Mike Huckabee. He's the host, of course, 8 and 11 on TBN now. The show Huckabee. Governor Mike Huckabee, thank you for being here, sir.
Hey, Stephen, great to be with you, and I hope you forgive me for not dancing the Shalom special there, but I'll have to take you up on another opportunity.
That's okay. Well, I hear it sounds like you're at death's door with your. I had is it a bronchial thing or is it pneumonia?
No, I think it's just flying in so many airplanes in that cabin air that's drier than the Gobi Desert. So I feel fine. I just have lost my voice, and maybe it's screaming at the television because occasionally I'll flip over to CNN or MSNBC. And I found myself uncontrollably yelling at the screen, which I've got to stop doing that.
I was going to say, I mean, if people don't know what's going on, your neighbors are just going to be saying, well, it's that point. He was very sharp, and now he's senile. We never thought it was going to happen with Governor Mike, but here we go.
It happens.
Yeah,
it happens.
I feel the same. We have to read Salon and HuffPo every day. We have to reread through leftist sources more than conservative sources to try and know what they're saying. And I know you've always done that. You've always been, we've talked about this with you on the show. You've always been so formidable in debate. You've always been very straightforward. You don't shy away from what you believe, but polite. And we've tried to talk about that. There's a way to be civil, but you don't have to lie about finding common ground where there isn't any. Why do you think so many people miss that? They think it's one or the other nowadays. That was something I've always wanted to ask you.
I think Stephen, it's simple. A lot of people don't take God seriously, but they take themselves incredibly seriously.
Right.
My view is don't take yourself too seriously. Take God seriously. And don't ever think that the whole world is all about self. But, when people get their feelings hurt over everything, it's really an indication that they have such a focus upon themselves. They really are narcissists.
Right.
And people need a sense of humor. So I love your show. You've got a sense of humor.
Well,
and not everybody likes it, because the left goes nuts because, you poke holes in some of their inconsistencies.
There are plenty of reasons to not like this show. Plenty of legitimate gripes, Governor Huckabee.
I didn't want to go there.
No, I know.
I didn't want to do that.
Well, there you go. But what if you're like Kanye and you're the Black Jesus? Then I guess you have to just take it all seriously because you are God. Hey, I wanted to ask you something though that I know has been in the news and will be near and dear to your heart. Something I think you could provide some insight on. The Alice Johnson story.
Yeah.
Right as I talk about something serious, this hat lops over like E.T., which is big. The commuting of the sentence of Alice Johnson by President Donald Trump. Now, we haven't really heard a lot about this in the media. Black woman who was there for non-violent drug-related charges. And you've had to deal with this, obviously, as governor. Tell us what your view is on this situation right now, and why hasn't it gotten more coverage? It would seem as though it's something that is a happy all-around story everyone would want to hear.
Well, here's the fact. If a conservative like Donald Trump issues a commutation to an African-American woman who clearly had a disproportionate sentence for her crime.
Yes, she did.
It was a first-time offense, nonviolent, and she gets life without parole. I cannot begin to tell you how excessive a sentence that is. Stephen, most people who are convicted of murder will end up serving 7 or 8 years.
Right.
That's just a fact. Some will have maybe a life sentence, but get out after a number of years.
Right.
Life without parole is the kind of sentence that you give to somebody if they've murdered a cop, if they have raped and dismembered a child. It is not what you give to a great-grandmother. By the way, she's already served 22 years of the sentence. She has lost that much. Now, a lot of people say, well, you know what, we've got to be tough on crime. I get that.
Sure.
But we should not be so tough on people. And I'll put it to you this way. My prison director when I was governor, great guy named Larry Norris, and he used to say, we're locking up a lot of people that we're mad at rather than the ones we are afraid of.
Right.
And I think that really settles it because, look, it costs probably in the neighborhood of $35,000 a year in a federal lockup for the taxpayers. Now, I'd have to ask, as a taxpayer, how many of us are really excited about locking up great-grandmothers for a crime committed 23 years ago, adjudicated 22 years ago, and her still being in prison for no particular valid reason after all this time?
I don't know. I'd imagine maybe like Bill Cosby to draw some press off himself. I'm trying to think of
sending her
reasons
home
that-
and giving her universal income would actually be cheaper.
Yeah, it would actually be cheaper. Well, here's the thing.
It
I
would.
also don't want to conflate the issues because the left, they've been so wrong about some of these sentences or wanting full pardons. Remember Tukey Williams and they were complaining to Arnold Schwarzenegger going, this guy was actually one of the founding members of either the Bloods or the Crips, had killed, I think, 4 people in 3 different shootings and refused to, his entire life, give up information regarding other members of the gang, but he wrote a children's book. So everyone was campaigning saying, well, you need to make the phone call. This guy I think he had the death penalty, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so.
And this was very different. I'm going, hold on a second. It's one thing to write a children's book on how to avoid gang violence. It's another thing to actually save children's lives if you could give up the names of people who are out there still killing. This wasn't one of those cases. I encourage people to go read up more on the Johnson case. And have you had some situations like this where you had to do this as governor?
Oh, absolutely. And it's a tough call. I mean, I had 1,000 cases a year that would come to my desk. Carried out the death penalty more than any governor in the history of the state. Not something that I would take any pleasure in because it's a horrible, horrible thing to have to do. But I also probably issued a record number of commutations, not as many outright pardons. And there's a difference. A lot of people use that term interchangeably. Very different. But Stephen, here's the reason. A lot
for
of
people
the
who don't know,
cases-
really quickly, I know you know, but for people who don't know, pardon basically erases the conviction.
Pardon says you're no longer a felon. You can vote. You can buy guns. It's as if you never committed the crime. Commutation reduces the sentence. And most of the time, a commutation reduces it to time served. In her case, she walked out the door. In some cases, you commute to a specific term. Let's say a person has been given 60 years. They've served 5. You commute it down to 10. And maybe they serve 2 more years and then they get out on parole. So there's a lot of different, all of it is under the banner of clemency.
Right.
But what I was going to point out is that, a lot of liberals say that they believe in sentencing reform. That is until a conservative actually does one. I can tell you there's no political upside to Donald Trump having done this. The conservatives, a lot of them will be mad at him, and the liberals will never, ever, not one time, give him any credit for looking at this African-American grandmother, great-grandmother, and stepping in and writing an injustice in a disproportionate sentence. So, I experienced this. When I would do one and people say, oh, you need to, commute this sentence. I do it. And guess who beat me up the most? The left.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want me to get credit for having a heart. They wanted to say that conservatives, hate people, especially minorities.
And that's a
It's
soft
not
way of
true.
doing that is well, I hate the term compassionate conservative. Well, I'm a compassionate conservative, implying that all other conservatives are what? I just say, no. I'm a conservative. Don't hit me with that label. But final question on this, and then I want to move on to the Philadelphia Eagles. Let me ask you this, because in Sweden, they basically get glorified apartments, right, for prison. Do you think that prison should be more about punishment or rehabilitation? Because in Europe, it's so far the other way, where it's almost not a punishment in some of these countries. And in the United States, a lot of them don't get rehabilitated. And that's one issue where I've talked about. I go back and forth. I think they need to be punished, but I don't know that the system works.
Well, I can assure you that when you lose your freedom, it is a punishment. And, people used to say, all these people in prison, they've got it so well, so good. Well, they don't. I've been to every prison in my state and always said, if you ever hear that I've committed the crime and it's a state crime, I guarantee it's a lie, because I would never do something that would subject me to spending one night in one of our prisons. I ran them. I knew them well. I would never want to be there. If I commit a crime, by gosh, it's federal, because they're a lot better in their prisons. But having said that,
be selective. There you go. That's the headline.
That's right.
Governor Mike Huckabee says, be selective in your crime. Commit federal.
If you're going to commit a crime,
do
a federal offense. But I think what we have to recognize is that the real goal ought to be correction. I mean, that's the goal we have with our own children, isn't it?
Right.
If our children do something that's wrong, it's not that we want to punish them because we get some delight in watching them suffer. Our delight comes when their behavior is corrected. Now, in order to do that in the really penal system, the necessity is making sure that whatever adjudication is given, it not only fits the crime, but it has the best likelihood of bringing the outcome to be some level of correction.
Yeah.
Let me give you an example, Stephen. 88% of all the inmates in the Arkansas prison system are there for a drug or alcohol-related crime. They were either drunk or high when they committed the crime, or they committed the crime to get drunk or high.
Yeah.
Put that into focus. What we need is not more people locked up. We need more people who are in some type of effective treatment program that gets them out of the drug and alcohol addiction. And I'll be very blunt with you. The only programs that I've seen effectively work are faith-based programs, and those have to be voluntary for the inmate. You can't force people into a faith-based program, but it's the only thing that works, because these are people messed up on the inside, and you can't just change their behavior by reconditioning.
And it's a vicious cycle, like you said. They're either doing it because they're drunk or high, or doing it to get drunk or high. It's the wild turkey or the egg classic.
Or going to therapy so they can get back out and get drunk and high.
Yeah, exactly. I know someone who their relative, I will not say who, but this person knows who they are, went to the insane asylum a long time ago. And she was so manipulative and so difficult, they opened the door and said, please leave. You are free to go. So hopefully a little bit better than that. Speaking of insane, let me ask you this. The Philadelphia, I was about to say Flyers because I'm a Canadian guy, a hockey guy. I was about to say Philadelphia Flyers. No way. Philadelphia Eagles, the White House. You said you would have handled that situation a little bit differently. I'm curious. What's your take on this?
Well, let me first of all say the Eagles tried to set the president up for an embarrassment.
Right.
The whole team was invited. They all cleared security, and then it became known that when it got down to it, only one of the Eagles, maybe two or three, would have even shown up. And so it would have been an embarrassing situation, not just for the president, but for the Eagles. But they didn't care. They wanted it to be that. But what I suggested was, I think the president should have said, as many of you as want to come on, and then show them the time of their lives. Give them all kinds of White House swag, take them up to the private quarters, walk them through the whole, the whole facility, and absolutely make it the best day of their lives, and let them go back and say, my gosh, the president treated me like a king. I think it would have been a great way to do the totally unexpected thing. And in politics, I subscribe to the view, do what people least expect you to do, push them back on their heels, and never give them the pleasure of having you do what they think.
Multi-millionaires. They need some free swag for sure.
Yeah, they need some free.
Yeah.
I don't think a tote bag will do it, but maybe if they had like if President Donald Trump had a water slide from his bedroom going out to the pool, like in blank check, or
He does. He has that.
Does he have? It wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, my daughter, she takes her kids on that water slide all the time.
I want to go straight for the rube, right to the pool. No sun touches this gold, okay?
It would be. They would go back and they would say, "Listen, it was a lot of fun." I do wish he just wouldn't have made it so public. I just would have not said anything and invited another team who would have been happy to come and then have them there. There are a multitude of ways I can handle it. I do like your idea. Your show is on TBN on Saturdays at 8 and 11. Right now, it's called Huckabee. Is that different?
Yeah.
Wasn't your other show called Huckabee?
It was. We couldn't come up with a better name.
Okay,
I'll tell you, the show is very similar, except we're doing it in Nashville.
Okay.
We have an amazing studio, big theater. We have about 1,000 people that come be part of the show.
Wow.
And it's enough politics, Stephen, as you remember from my Fox show, that it's fun. But we do a lot of things that are not being done on TV anymore. We've got comedians, acrobats, a lot of music. Of course, we're in Nashville.
Right.
You're going to have music on the show.
Yeah.
And it's a fun, wholesome, entertaining variety show. I think people will enjoy it.
And you don't have to spend as much time anymore in that cesspool of where dreams go to die in New York City. You get to spend more time in Nashville.
I do not go there very much, which I much rather go to Nashville every week.
Well, you know what? Maybe we'll come out sometime to the live studio audience and do a show here on this show about your show. It'll be like Inception, the shows within the shows, and we'll bring out Yakov Smirnoff and have him tell a few jokes.
I love it.
All right.
I love that.
Thank you. At Gov Mike Huckabee. You can watch the show on TBN 8 and 11. Thank you so much, Governor. Go heal up. Drink some honey tea.
I will.
A long, long time ago, I can still remember when contestants used to wave and smile. But I knew if feminists had their way, they would make the whole thing gay. And Miss America would be a trans queer fatty named Kyle. The news cycle filled me with dread. With every blog post that I read, beauty is now seen as unfair. It's all about acne and green hair. I can't imagine what they meant when they said there'd be no swimsuit event. They said that it was 'cause it was obscene, but we all know it was to hide the trannies' weens. So bye-bye, Miss America's thighs. Drove my Prius with no weenus, singing Me Too or Die. And the gender studies boys were drinking soy and cried, gender roles are a patriarchal lie. They screamed, gender roles are a patriarchal lie. So bye-bye, Miss America's thighs. Drove my Prius without no weenus, hashtag Me Too or Die. And the gender studies boys were drinking soy and cried, maybe gender roles are a patriarchal lie. Next Miss America will be David Hogg.
Does hair float?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I was too busy reenacting Jaws.
I couldn't. We're both talk about narcissists. We were both in our own world here. Thank you so much to RazorFist. Thank you so much to Governor Mike Huckabee, and our apologies to Sargon of Akkad. We'll have him back on soon. Thank you to Owen Benjamin. Of course, follow him on. He's not on Twitter, but on YouTube at Owen Benjamin Comedy. Has some tour dates coming up.
Yep, some big dates.
And we have some big Change My Minds coming up soon.
Yeah.
We're going to be rattling off a few of them, including one for 4th of July. And we'll see what happens with the hidden camera situation we've been working on for a little bit, and those are hit or miss. So a lot of work going on behind the scenes. And you were about to say something.
I was thinking that the point I was thinking about earlier was
before your point. That's what I was thinking. I'm afraid of wet hair since The Ring. Remember that
I don't
trend?
like wet hair at all.
Do you remember that trend?
Yeah.
It was The Ring and The Grudge. It was like, oh, you want to make the movie scary? To have a dead girl with wet hair.
Yeah. I blow dry my hair before I go to bed. I can't sleep with the wet hair. I can't do anything. I can't
blow
function.
dry your hair?
Yeah, every day.
You blow dry your hair?
Yeah, every day.
Okay, go on with your point there. As though people are still listening. You can take off the glasses, by the way. Nake Jared has been a trooper. He can't see anything.
There are no lenses.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's nothing.
Well, I thought there were lenses. You said you couldn't see anything.
I can't see anything.
Oh, you can't because you don't have your glasses.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there's your face. Oh,
well, sorry. Maybe we'll shake them off.
Sucks.
Yeah.
Thank you. My point was that it just becomes clear and clear every day that the left hates success. They really freaking with the Forbes list, with we talk about with Israel. They hate success. Miss America, they hate success. Everywhere it could be found. They want everyone. And I remember even like we talk about the underdog.
Yeah.
They believe that the underdog always has the moral high ground.
The underdog is granted moral superiority with the left. Now, not every single, but we're talking about the left as a whole. People like the Samantha Bees of the world, the progressive left, the DNC, the media establishment. Yeah, they do. They grant moral superiority to the underdog.
Yeah.
If you're an ugly fat feminist, you are granted moral superiority over the woman who trained day and night and got ready for Miss America.
and donates her time to charities. Yeah,
right, exactly. Because she's pretty.
Because she's pretty. Yeah. I even like I think about the movie Rudy. Like I think most of us grew up with that thinking like, oh wow, what an inspirational story. Then I got older, I'm like, that's kind of BS.
Yeah, he didn't really deserve it.
He didn't really deserve that.
It's a feel-good story because everyone else feels sympathetic for him because he worked really hard. But the truth is, it would have meant more if he'd have earned his spot. And you know what? Rudy could have maybe earned his spot somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah, and what's funny is like I can't think of. There's times in my life where I was given something that I knew I didn't earn, and it felt like one instance was when I went to a guitar. It was like a showcase kind of thing, and I did a guitar solo, classical guitar. I'm awful at classic guitar. Songs. I did it in high school, and I didn't practice. I didn't want to practice. I was awful at it. I skipped half of my lessons for it, and I went and did this in front of this really intimidating judge. And I botched it. He gave me a chance in the middle to restart the whole thing, which he didn't have to do. I did the whole thing, and I got to the end where they're passing out the awards with everybody else. And I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, all the friends, every person I've ever had a crush on is here, and I'm going to just melt when they give me an honorable mention. Give me a blue ribbon, and I sigh of relief. But then I went home. I'm like, I didn't post it anywhere. I didn't put it up on my board. I didn't hang up on my bed because I knew like that was BS.
Yeah.
I should not have gotten the blue ribbon.
It doesn't feel good.
It didn't feel good at all.
You know what? That happened with me. It's at Fox News. When they hired me, I was 21. I was the youngest contributor. I knew they didn't know how young I was, but I knew it was just because I was sort of young comedian, something they hadn't had before. I had spanked Alan Colmes on air in a debate, but I knew that there were other people more deserving of that spot. Remember when I got it, I was happy. But then in contrast, I worked so hard when I was there. I moved to New York City with no guarantees, by the way. It was like you were paid per appearance, and then it ended up being like this kind of, paltry retainer when I worked for those who are coming on. A lot of people don't realize I was at Fox News for 4.5 years as an on-air contributor. Hannity, Fox and Friends, Red Eye, I mean, all the shows except O'Reilly.
Yep.
Literally. And I worked so hard when I was there, and I fill-in hosted, and then they had Fox News. I think it was Studio B. It was an online thing, the Fox News Strategy Room, and far fewer people watched that than watched this program. And I worked so hard and showed up for the early segments. No one wanted to do. I remember 2 New Years in a row, I had to be up at 3 a.m. because I was in Central Time at that point, and I was having to do it by satellite, and they had me do the first hour of Fox and Friends.
Yeah.
And I worked so hard just trying to get something off the ground because at that point they were looking at doing some weekend programming, and it didn't matter. I was literally told, listen, it's just not going to happen. We're either going to rerun O'Reilly or Hannity because it's cheaper. We're already paying them, and if you look at their programming, it was just rerunning this. They would do Bill O'Reilly, I think Hannity, Greta, and they would rerun all of them like twice.
Really?
So it didn't matter what I did or how good I was. It's free at that point. You know, it's free. You're filling out a clock and selling catheters.
It's already paid for content. Yeah.
So when I got it and I didn't deserve it, I felt bad. And then when I really knew that I gave it everything I had and it wasn't given the shot, that they said, yeah, you deserve, we're just not doing that right now, you know, I was done.
Yep. What would have been better for me? What would have been much, much better is to give me the honorable mention, let me deal with the embarrassment, and then I would have come back the next year and blown everyone out of the water. Because I would have gone home and be like, you know what? That's not going to happen again.
Right.
Because I knew I was better than what I put into it, but I didn't earn it.
Yeah.
Would have been better for me to not get any kind of mention at all.
And like we talked about this, everyone out there is good at something.
Long
You
term.
got to find it. When the left says, believe in yourself, you're perfect the way you are, and we don't champion that cause. We say, well, hold on a second, you're not perfect the way you are, and sometimes maybe you shouldn't believe in yourself. But the left doesn't want you to believe in yourself.
They want you to feel good in the moment.
They want you to feel good. They want everyone to feel good. But it's okay. Believe in yourself. Oh, you know what? I think that I would be a really good Miss America. This is no. We can't have that. Believe in yourself. You know what? I think I could become an NBA officer. Well, no. We need to have a certain amount of money for them, and everyone needs to be the same. They don't want you to believe in yourself, because to believe in the only way to truly believe in yourself, the only way to truly have self-confidence is to earn it and to believe in what you're able. What does believe in yourself mean? Think about that for a second. Let's say you've talked about this as one of the funniest jokes I ever heard, where you said, I was talking about my grandfather-in-law who had built 2 houses with his bare hands, and you said we could probably learn to do it. You said
I said there's no way I would trust myself. I wouldn't go on the second floor.
No, exactly. So what is
Not a chance
believing in yourself? You can build the house, believe in yourself. If you know you're not good at it, you don't believe in yourself. You believe in yourself when you
Follow the
achieve
sky.
something, when you achieve excellence. And the left doesn't want you to believe that. The left really, because they want to remove everything that makes us unique. They want you to be another faceless number. And here's one thing too, I've changed a little bit. This is why we've spoken out against this more. This is why we've been a little bit harsher with Samantha Bee. If there's one thing, you want to talk about believing in yourself, listen, if you keep making the same mistake over and over, and you don't judge yourself, you need to be a little judgmental of yourself. If you don't make those harsh judgments on yourself, you're never going to correct it. You're going to keep making the mistake, and you will not believe in yourself. And I've changed on this a little bit, where I've had a lot of people email in and say, what should I do? I'm in college. My professors are further left, and I'm afraid, should I speak out? And I said, well, listen, I don't blame you. If you want to get your degree, you want to keep your grades up, probably keep it quiet. You want to work in the entertainment industry, probably keep it quiet. I will tell you this. You want to believe in yourself, you want to talk about mistakes that you've made, there is none greater, and this is why I've been changing to every letter that I answer, none greater for destroying your own self-esteem than cowardice. That's actually one thing you recommended, Fargo. That entire show, the theme is about confronting cowardice. There are few things that I can say specifically as a man. I'm sure it's the same as with women. I'd like to hear from you. Maybe if they're treating somebody really well, women are getting catty, and you stayed quiet. I remember one time I stayed quiet when they were bullying a kid named Tony, and I just stayed quiet. This was in grade school, because this was the first time I was not being the one bullied. And I remember they were bullying him because he said, we were talking about the Transformers, and we had to do a book report. And he was talking about this in front of class, and he said the Predacons, the Decepticons and the Autobots. Now, at that time, the show Beast Wars, or Beasties if you were in the States, was big. And so they were called the Predacons. These were the villains in the new but the original Transformers, he was right, the Decepticons. And the whole class laughed at him, and they started making fun of him. And I knew what he meant. I knew he was right, and no one said anything, and I didn't say anything. And you know what? I felt bad about that for so long. There are very few times in my life where I can say that I look back and I'm like, man, I should have stood up. I should have stood up. I should have said something. There are a couple others. Some are personal. Maybe I'll get into it at some point. Maybe I won't. But I tell you what, those are the things that keep me up at night. So if you want self-esteem, you want to believe in yourself.
Be your own rainbow.
You want to actually have a true self-belief. Be good at something, and I will tell you what, the mistake that will keep you up at night is cowardice. So I changed that advice. When you're in college, listen, you know the fight that's going on out there. If you want to be in the entertainment industry, be vocal, be bold. It's the only way this is going to change. If you want to change the campus culture, be vocal, be bold, because there are a lot of mistakes that you can make. You can forget to carry the one. You can make mistakes in relationships and maybe behaviorally, and you can learn to improve upon that. But cowardice is something that usually you've got a split moment before you decide not to say anything. You've got a split moment before you decide to tuck tail and run away. And I will tell you, it is a terrible feeling, and nothing, and I mean nothing out there, will eat away at your self-confidence, at your self-esteem, and destroy your life like the repeated act of cowardice. So think of it. All of us have these areas in some part of our life where we're cowardly and we even try to avoid. Or maybe it's some instance that you know you acted wrong, you know you acted out of cowardice, and you need to fix. Do it. Do it, because I guarantee you do that right away, it's going to be a weight lifted off your shoulders, and all of a sudden you're going to have self-esteem. And you don't need equal outcomes. You just need to do the right thing. There is nothing more toxic to your soul than repeatedly acting out of cowardice. Believe me, I've done it. You'll burn for it. I know what I'm talking about. We're going to see you next week, Monday. A big change my mind. Speaking of which, I think that's pretty bold. I might get shot.
It only takes